Welcome to assignment number 1. You will find the instructions for assignment number 1 in the resource section of Sakai or in the assignment section of Sakai under assignment number 1. Scroll down through the first page and you'll see several attached documents at the bottom of the page. Please select the Microsoft Word document and that will be these instructions. Please note that you must submit this using Microsoft Excel, and you're going to submit that file to Sakai's assignment section. Please do not send it to me in email. I will not accept it in email. I will only accept it in Sakai. Please also, when you save the file, please use the following file name convention. You will use this file name convention on all assignments. The file name convention is last name underscore first name underscore assignment underscore, in this case, 1.xls. Now, Microsoft Excel will probably save it as an XLS, but just to make sure, I ask that you put the XLS. That tells a computer system that this is a Microsoft Excel file. Sakai will recognize it as such, and so will any Microsoft or any computer. Both Apple and Windows will both recognize that file extension. We're going to be creating a spreadsheet to exercise your command of Excel. Excel is the best tool for business managers today, or business people in general. You must be able to use Excel to be successful in your career in business. We're going to create 3 sheets in one Microsoft Excel file, and we're going to show you how to do that in just a second. So here are the instructions. First thing we're going to do is create a positions table. Let me switch over to Excel so I can show you what that looks like. We are going to provide, you're going to be given information about, let me scroll down there so you can see it. There they are. The positions are director, secretary and manager, secretary and assistants. Here we've identified their monthly rate of pay, and you'll notice that the assistants are paid on an hourly basis, and here down below that are the parameters that you're going to use to calculate the assistant's pay. So we're going to create a table. We're going to put the pay by month for 3 months, January, February, and March. We're then going to calculate the quarterly total and then the annual forecast. So let's switch back over to Excel and see what that looks like. So we put the director, and we've identified that they get paid $5,500 a month. The secretary manager makes $4,188 a month, and the secretary makes $1,895 a month. Now the assistants, let's switch back over here to the instructions, indicates that in January, the assistant worked 4 weeks, 20 hours per week, and 2 assistants. And they earned a rate of pay of $8 per hour. So we're going to enter that in as a formula. So up here, just below the menu bar, is a field called FX. And you can see that it says Insert Function. We're going to go down to the Assistant field for January, and we're going to type in 4, and the asterisk sign here means multiply. So we're going to make 4 times 20 times 2 times 8. So that's 4 weeks, 20 hours per week, 2 assistants by $8 an hour. And that is going to give us 1,280. In the month of February, they worked 3 weeks, 20 hours per week, and 2 assistants. So that comes out to 3 times 20 times 2 times 8. And then in March, they worked 5 weeks, which I'm going to have to scroll down here in the Word document so that you can see 5 weeks, 20 hours per week, 2 assistants. So this is how we perform a calculation in Excel. Notice that all calculations start with an equal sign. That tells Excel that you're going to be entering in a formula. Now, as the instructions stated, we need everything by month, but we also need a quarterly total. I would like you to provide a quarterly total by each position. And so that looks like this. So the quarterly total for each position is going to be adding up January, February, and March. The function or formula to do that is the sum formula. Now, if you have a question about a formula, let's go to a blank cell right now, and let's hit the FX or the function for, option. You'll notice that when I select that, it comes up with some of the most commonly used formulas within Excel. So you can see that sum and average are there. And down below, in this area down here, it gives you the instructions on how to use them. So this makes it very simple. So to create a quarterly total, we're going to add up the months of January, February, and March. So the formula to use is equal sign sum, open parentheses, B5 colon D5. So B5 is this cell here. You'll see that over here in the lower left-hand side of the screen, it identifies B5. The next cell over is C5, and the next one over is D5. These are cell addresses, and this is how Excel keeps track of the data that you put into a spreadsheet. The colon between the B5 and the D5 identifies a range of cell. So everything between B and D is going to be added. This is extremely important because this also works not only for rows, but also for columns, as we'll see in a few minutes. Okay? So once we have this formula, there's two things you can do. You can redo the formula by typing it in again, or we can go back to the original. We can do a right click, a copy, and then we can select the range that we want to paste this in, do a right click again, and we can paste it. The same formula, and it will, Excel automatically knows that we need to increment the rows by the number. So the row number here is 6. The original formula was B5 to D5. The second row is B6 to D6, and so forth. Excel automatically knows that you're going to want to perform the same formula, but from a different row. This becomes extremely powerful. So the next thing we want to do is the average. And just like when we were on a blank cell and we selected the formula key here, we saw that average was the third most popular formula in Excel. We're going to use the equal sign, average, open parentheses, B5 to D5 to show that we want to average these cells, January, February, and March. Okay? And again, we're just going to simply do a copy, right click, then right click, paste, and you'll see that that's the same formula. The last computation that we need to do for this sheet is the annual forecast. I would like you to use the annual forecast based on actual dollars, not on the average. So we're going to take, we're going to use the equal sign, and then we're going to multiply the quarterly total by 4 to come up with the right answer. You can see that there. Okay? And the same thing, we'll do a right click, we'll do a copy, we'll highlight the cells, we'll do a right click and paste. We then want them to have the totals for each, for the entire organization on this one. So we are going to do, come over here to the monthly totals that we would like to see. And we're going to do the sum function again, equal sign sum, but this time we're going to add these cells together in a column fashion. This works the same way. Once we have this, we can do a right click, copy, and then a right click, paste, and we'll get this how we want. Now, in the instructions, I've also suggested I would like some highlighting. So what I've done here See, it's right there. Step number 4. Highlight important items using your formatting skills. So the formatting skills that we're going to use is right here. I've identified that the quarterly total should be blue. So we come up here to the color palette and we select blue, and it will automatically shade the entire cell blue. There's another way to do this too. You could do a right click on the cell, go to Format Cells, comes up here with several menu options. You can go to Fill, and then you can select the color this way too. It's a little easier using the menu option than it is to go to the Format Cell option. Now here's a tricky part. A lot of people will add the averages in a column to come up with the total average. But that's incorrect, because eventually you're going to come up with a number that's over 100% of the actual the numbers that you're adding up. And that doesn't work on averages. So you have to use the same formula that you used above, only you use it with the total numbers from the total row. And that gives you the correct average. And in this particular case, instead of summing these all up, I just used the same formula that I used above to come up with the correct annual forecast. And then lastly, down here in the position averages, this is the column average by month. So these should be really considered monthly totals here, or monthly averages. Monthly total here, and monthly average here. Hopefully you can see that. Okay? Now the expense table is going to be created by the information that we have added or given to you in the monthly expenses section of the Word document. So we have a digital camera of $119 in January. We have a charger at $19.76. 2 digital movie cameras at $599 each. And a recording tape, $23.50. And a box of printer paper at $55. We're going to enter that information in for January, and you can see how that works here. Notice the digital movie camera is a formula. It was $599 for 2 of them. So equal sign 599 times 2. Then down at the bottom, I entered the sum formula to get the January total for expenses. And then we also used the average formula to get the monthly average. So we have the monthly average here, but I also want the quarterly total here. So because we did this monthly, I don't want you to necessarily do the quarterly totals for each one of the expense items. That really doesn't make sense, so we don't really do that in business. We're really only looking for the quarterly total, not by individual item. We want them by month, and then quarter, and then the annual forecast. So, and these are the same formulas that we used over in the position table. Okay, so that's pretty easy. You'll notice down here at the bottom that we have the tabs, and they describe what are on those sheets: position table and expense table. To change this, because when you first enter into Excel, it will call it Sheet 1, Sheet 2, Sheet 3. You change the names by just simply doing a right click on the tab and then doing a rename, and now you can put whatever name you want here. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and delete this so it doesn't become confusing. Okay? Now the third thing that we need to do is create a summary table. Now the summary table, I don't want you to transpose the numbers. We want to use Excel to transition the numbers directly from the position table and the expense table. We're only going to take the detailed numbers, not the totals and the averages. We're going to recalculate the totals and averages based upon the details that we take from each one of those tables. So in order to do that, for January, we're going to press the equal sign. Then we're going to go to the position table. We're going to go to the total for January. We highlight the cell and we press enter. Now notice what it did. It put an equal sign and then it put the apostrophe here, and it says position table, apostrophe, and then it has an exclamation point, B9. Let's go back to the position table and go to the position total, monthly total, and you'll notice the cell is B9. So this is how Excel identifies the cell addresses on different tabs or sheets. We're going to do that for each one of the months. And again, this works very similar to how we copied the sum and the average formulas. We can do a right-click copy, and Excel will know as long as these are in sequence in the other sheet, it will automatically paste them over. So you can see here that we have position table C9 and position table D9. We're going to do the same thing for expenses by going over to the expense table, collecting the January total, and then we're simply going to copy this over so that we have February and March as well. Pretty easy. Now, like I said, we're not going to go get the monthly totals. We're going to have to calculate the monthly totals for the position and the total expenses. So we're going to have to redo the sum formulas, and we'll have to redo the average formulas as well. Then we're going to go ahead and get quarterly totals for the positions and the expenses, but I don't want you to take them from the detail sheets. I want you to recalculate them here. And the same thing with the monthly average and then the annual forecast. The only things that you take from the detail tables, which the detail tables are the position table and the expense table, are the actual details here, the totals that were calculated from them. We're going to recalculate all the totals and the averages here in the summary sheet as the data is pulled in from the other sheets. This is just a good best practices technique to use so that you always have the most accurate information. Last, we're going to do a graph. We're going to do two graphs, one for the position table and one for the expense table. So to create a graph, very easy. We highlight the data that we want to place in the graph. We're going to go up to Insert. Then we're going to select a graph type. I like bar charts, so I'm going to select a bar chart, and I'm going to use a three-dimensional column chart. So you notice as I hover over the different types of graph, you'll notice that it automatically builds the graph right there for me. So we're going to go ahead and click on the graph, and this is how it created it. Now, I want you to make sure, if we go to the grading rubric, which is also in the instruction sheet, and it's also, let's see, up in the assignment tab, you'll see that in the graph sections, I would like you to have appropriate titles, appropriate labels, and X and Y axis are properly labeled as well. So the X and Y axis are the horizontal and the vertical. So in order to change these, it's very simple. Let's go back up to the example that we have here. In the chart title, really all we need to say is position salaries by month. I want this to be very descriptive so anybody taking a look at this chart will know exactly what this is. You'll notice down here at the bottom of the chart, it's identified the month of January as Series 1, February Series 2. Well, we need to change that. So the way to change that is to go back up here to our chart design, and we're going to go to select data. And in the select data, you'll notice that it has series 1, 2, and 3 listed out. We're going to go to series 1. We're going to edit it. Then we're going to go over here to the spreadsheet icon, and we're going to then type or enter the location of January, the month that we want represented on the chart or graph. Press enter, say OK, And notice down here it changed it to January. We're going to do that for each one of the series by putting February in and then March. Very easy. Now the reason why we're doing this is, let me show you this real quick. What happens if we want to change data on our table and we want it represented in our graph? By using these cell assignments, now if I change this and I want to put the whole name in, oh, I use drop-down lists here, so we can't do that. Sorry. Let's see if we can do it on this one. There we go. Notice how it changed it in the graph. Now we want to do it over here. And you'll notice that whatever we put in the table, because we identified the cell linkages between the table and the graph, we now have it here in the graph or the chart. We need to do two more things. We need to add the x-axis and the y-axis. So when we go back over here to the, let's highlight this. We're going to go back to design for chart tools. And over here, we want to add a chart element. When we select that, it comes up with the axes title. So the primary or primary horizontal axis is positions. So we type in positions here. And now we want to do the same thing for the vertical or the x-axis. So we just type in here. And this is salary in dollars. Something descriptive that would tell the audience that's taking a look at this what this chart is all about. Okay? And that's pretty much it, except that I want this over here on the Graphs tab. So what I'm going to do is highlight the border. I'm going to do a right click. I'm going to do a cut. Come over here to the Graphs tab. Select a space for it. Do a right click and paste. So we just cut and paste it from one screen to the other screen. I'd like you to do the same thing for the expense table. You can use any type of graph or chart style that you'd like. However, I'd like you to try to steer away from pie charts. Unless you're doing expense totals, and monthly averages, you don't want to use them together. And whenever you're doing charts, you're either going to graph the details, or you will graph the totals, or you will graph the averages, but you never mix the three different data types together. Always keep them separate and distinct on separate graphs and charts. Okay? I think that's about it. So please go ahead and fill this out. Save the file with your name on it as instructed here in the assignment document right up here. And then submit this to Sakai. I'll take a look at it, I'll grade it, and I'll send it back to you. Okay? Thank you. I hope that was easy, and I hope you get value out of learning this. Bye-bye.